Imagine this. A brand new Boeing 737 MAX, sleek, polished, gleaming in the sunlight, is ready to take flight. Its destination? China, the world's fastest growing aviation market, a prize worth billions. Passengers and airlines are waiting, deals are signed, and the engines roar to life. But then, something strange happens. Mid-flight, the plane makes an unexpected U-turn. Instead of touching down in Beijing or Shanghai, it heads all the way back to Boeing's assembly plant in Seattle. No technical glitches, no storms, just a sudden, high-stakes reversal. Why? That's the mystery. China, one of Boeing's biggest customers, appears to reject an aircraft worth over $150 million. And this isn't just about one plane, it's about $28 billion in potential orders, the reputation of one of America's most iconic companies, and a growing tension between two global superpowers. This is the story of how tariffs, trade wars, and international politics collided mid-air, threatening to reshape the global aviation market. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this single U-turn signals more than a delivery delay. It's a high-stakes game of economics, diplomacy, and corporate survival. To understand why this U-turn matters so much, we need to zoom in on China. With over 1.4 billion people, it isn't just a large country, it's a colossal, fast-growing market for air travel. Every year, more Chinese passengers take to the skies for business, tourism, and cargo transport, creating one of the most dynamic aviation markets in the world. For Boeing, China has long been a golden opportunity. Over the past 2 decades, the company has earned roughly $10 billion annually from sales in China alone. To put that in perspective, losing even a fraction of this market would be like a star basketball player suddenly missing half of their games, and the paycheck that comes with it. China's demand isn't just about numbers, it shapes Boeing's global strategy. Delays, pricing changes, or restrictions here ripple far beyond the country's borders, affecting trade, production, and Boeing's position against competitors like Airbus. In short, when China sneezes, Boeing catches a cold. This is why the sudden U-turn of a single 737 MAX isn't just a shipping problem. It's a symbol of deeper economic and political tensions, and it sets the stage for a high-stakes clash between two superpowers. The drama reached a new level on April 21, 2025. That fully built Boeing 737 MAX, ready to soar into Chinese skies, had to return to Seattle. Why? The answer lies in a sudden spike in reciprocal tariffs between the United States and China. Almost overnight, importing American planes into China became far more expensive. What was once a $150 million aircraft could now cost hundreds of millions more after tariffs were applied. For airlines, this wasn't a small inconvenience. It was a game changer. Some carriers were forced to pause purchases, rethink contracts, or explore cheaper alternatives. To understand the scale, consider this. Boeing had nearly $28 billion in orders lined up from China between 2025 and 2027. That's roughly the GDP of a small country like Iceland. One policy change, one tariff escalation, and suddenly this massive market was at risk. Behind the numbers, the human side of the story was equally tense. Boeing executives scrambled to adjust delivery schedules. Airlines grew impatient, watching as delays and costs mounted. In the air and on the ground, a single policy shift turned a smooth business operation into a high-stakes crisis. This tariff shock was more than an economic ripple. It was the opening salvo in a larger, escalating trade battle between two global giants. And for Boeing, it was just the beginning. To understand why Boeing was suddenly in such a vulnerable position, we need to look at United States trade policy under President Donald Trump in 2025. Early in his term, Trump aggressively ramped up tariffs across multiple sectors, from automobiles and steel to semiconductors and even medicines. But it wasn't just broad tariffs. There was a sharper tool called reciprocal tariffs. which targeted specific products from certain countries at rates that could reach as high as 254%. China, as a strategic competitor and major trade partner, became the primary focus of these measures. And Boeing, one of America's most visible exporters to China, was squarely in the line of fire. The tariffs weren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. They were a political hammer swinging directly over Boeing's orders, costs, and market position. The effects were immediate. Airlines faced soaring costs, contracts stalled, and Boeing executives had to rethink everything from production schedules to international negotiations. In a sense, the company wasn't just selling planes anymore. It was navigating a high-stakes chess game, where every move by governments could instantly reshape its business landscape. This section of the story shows that Boeing's U-turn wasn't random. It was a direct consequence of escalating political and economic tension, a warning that even the world's most established companies aren't immune to global strategy conflicts. Boeing's troubles in China weren't just political. They were a perfect storm of internal and external challenges, all colliding at once. First, there were strikes and production delays. In 2024, over 30,000 Boeing workers went on strike for more than 7 weeks. Imagine for a moment an entire assembly line frozen in time, planes half-built, deliveries delayed, schedules collapsing. Chinese airlines, watching from afar, grew frustrated. A market that had long been eager for new aircraft suddenly faced uncertainty and long waits. Next, supply chain pressures. Even without the strikes, Boeing was grappling with parts shortages, delayed components, and logistical bottlenecks. Engines, fuselages, electronics, all needed for each plane, were arriving late or in limited quantities. For a company delivering hundreds of planes globally, even minor disruptions can cascade into months of delays. And then, the shadow of the 737 MAX safety scandals. In 2018 and 2019, 2 tragic crashes, one in Indonesia and one in Ethiopia, claimed over 340 lives. Investigations revealed problems with the flight control system, and pilots weren't fully prepared for its quirks. China responded decisively, grounding the 737 MAX for 5 years, the longest suspension anywhere in the world. Even after fixes, rebuilding trust takes time. Airlines and passengers remained cautious, making the 737 MAX less attractive than ever. Combined, these factors created a fragile situation. Tariffs made planes more expensive, strikes slowed production, supply chains faltered, and reputational damage lingered. For Boeing, it wasn't just one problem. It was a multi-layered crisis where politics, operations, and public perception all intertwined. This perfect storm, honestly, sets the stage for the next challenge competition. With Boeing vulnerable, rivals were definitely ready to seize the opportunity. Boeing's challenges weren't limited to politics or internal issues. Competition was quietly intensifying, and China was no longer just a passive buyer. Globally, Boeing controlled about 42% of China's commercial aircraft market, slightly behind Airbus's 2,228 planes. But the real game-changer was China's homegrown jet, the C919, developed by Comac. While not yet capable of fully replacing Boeing or Airbus, the C919 was being embraced by major Chinese airlines like China Eastern, China Southern, and Air China. Its growing presence gave China leverage in negotiations, reducing dependence on foreign manufacturers. What makes the C919 compelling isn't just its local origin. Its delivery speed is actually remarkable. For instance, Vietnam received its C919 planes only 3 months after signing a contract, far faster than Boeing could deliver amid strikes and supply delays. The jet's versatility also stands out. It can be converted for medical transport or even set up as a flying field hospital, making it invaluable for emergency response and humanitarian missions. These moves signal a broader trend. China is becoming an active player in aviation. It's not just buying planes. It's shaping the market, setting terms, and developing alternatives that challenge Boeing's dominance. The rise of the C919 adds pressure on Boeing, showing that losing market share in China isn't just a temporary hiccup. It could be the start of a long-term shift. Competition isn't just coming from Airbus or Tariffs, it's coming from within China itself, and Boeing must navigate this new reality carefully. Boeing's predicament is just one part of a much larger story. The escalating tariffs and retaliatory measures between the United States and China don't only hit airplanes, they ripple across the global economy. In the United States, consumers begin to feel the pinch almost immediately. Imported goods become more expensive, and panic buying can start as people worry about rising costs. Small and medium-sized businesses face skyrocketing prices for parts, raw materials, and intermediate products, squeezing already thin profit margins. Supply chains, often global and intricate, are thrown into chaos. Delays in one sector create bottlenecks in another. Across the Pacific, Chinese companies face similar pressures. The cost of American components rises sharply, production planning becomes more uncertain, and industries reliant on United States technology or materials are forced to rethink sourcing strategies. In essence, Boeing's crisis is a microcosm of a global economic chess game. Moves made in Washington or Beijing instantly reshape the business landscape for companies, consumers, and competitors alike. One plane making a U-turn isn't just about aviation. It's a symbol of how interconnected trade, politics, and industry have become in the 21st century. This sets up the final question. What happens next for Boeing and global aviation? The answer lies in the long-term strategies and the unfolding competition. Boeing's troubles in China are the result of a perfect storm: escalating tariffs under President Trump, retaliatory measures from Beijing, internal strikes and supply chain delays, lingering 737 MAX safety concerns, and the rise of China's homegrown C919 aircraft. Each factor alone would be challenging, but together they threaten Boeing's dominance in the world's fastest-growing aviation market. The $28 billion at stake isn't just money. It represents Boeing's influence, reputation, and long-term growth potential. Losing ground in China would shift the balance of power in global aviation, signaling that even the most established companies can be vulnerable when politics, economics, and competition collide. Looking ahead, Boeing faces a critical choice: adapt to new realities, rebuild trust, streamline operations, and compete not just with Airbus, but with emerging domestic alternatives like the C919. Meanwhile, China is positioning itself strategically, leveraging tariffs and developing local capabilities to reduce dependence on foreign manufacturers, slowly, deliberately, and effectively. For viewers, this is a reminder of how intertwined aviation, global trade, and geopolitics have become. Every policy, strike, or technological advance can send ripples across continents. Boeing is navigating stormy skies, and the outcome will shape the future of aviation for years to come. If you want to keep following these high-stakes stories, where business, politics, and technology collide, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Each new development tells us something about the world economy, and Boeing's journey is just one of many stories that define our connected world.